Mm-hmm.
Everyone familiar with the Tamir Rice story?
Definitely. That was a huge...
Tamir Rice was
huge case.
I believe he was 14.
14, I want to say.
And the police pulled up. He was playing with what they thought was a real gun, and they shot him. Her family, they settled, but I don't think the cop was convicted.
Yeah.
Tamir Rice's mother, her name is Samaria Rice. Is her name Samir? Am I saying that right? Samaria Rice. That's what it sounds like. The mother of Tamir Rice, and Lisa Simpson, mother of Richard Risher. They have an official statement. I'm going to read it. Tamika D. Mallory, Sean King, Benjamin Crump, Lee Merritt, Patrice Cullors, Malia Abdullah, and Black Lives Matter Global Network need to step down, stand back, and stop monopolizing and capitalizing our fight for justice and human rights. We never hired them to be our representation in the fight for justice or our dead loved ones murdered by the police. The quote-unquote activists have events in our cities and have not given us anything substantial for using our loved ones' images and families in the case of Tamir Rice. Wait, I'm sorry. They haven't given us anything for using the images of our loved ones. Their names are on their flyers. The attorneys in our fight are also misleading the impacted families. In the case of Tamir Rice, it was even questionable as to whether Benjamin Crump knew the laws in depth in the state of Ohio. I fired him 6 to 8 months into Tamir's case. We don't want or need y'all parading in the streets, accumulating donations, platforms, movie deals, etc. off the death of our loved ones, while the families and communities are left clueless and broken. Don't say our loved ones' names, period. That's our truth.
Strong statement. And very direct. What do you think about that? That was a lot. Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set.
I mean, I get where she's coming from, and I respect it.
Ben Crump is a personal injury lawyer.
Yeah.
Can we start there?
Okay. That has nothing to do with what he's fighting, is what you're saying.
What you got on it, Jay Black? Like, what's
I respect. You can never tell somebody how to mourn.
Right.
I respect his mother. I respect her views. I respect all that.
Yeah.
My thing is, if as her wishes is, don't say our kids' names. Mm-hmm. So okay, bam. Say if they stop, or say when everybody stops when y'all protesting, when we out protesting in the streets. The one thing is say his name, say her name.
Yeah.
So okay, what if we just stop saying names and we just fight the cause, police brutality? Do y'all feel like these families would feel like, oh no, this my, would they feel like their son should be mentioned, even if we just like, oh no, we just fighting police brutality. Mm-hmm. We ain't gonna say no names because we don't want to get no families involved. We don't want to offend nobody. But it could be families that take offense, like, oh, you're not putting my, or if you saying names and you forget a family's name, you're not saying my son's name. I think that
every case is different. Every family is different. The way every family wants it handled is different. So why everybody has the same lawyer, I never understood that. Like, I never understood why, if I'm working on a case,
but I guess in this situation, and I could just be missing it. Like, where's the lawyer even playing a role into where these families are disrespected?
Well,
I'll say this. Once again, there are criminal cases and there are civil cases. Mm-hmm. First of all, let's split the two up. Those are two different sides. Ben Crump handles the civil side of cases. He's the one that goes in and makes sure you get money for the pain and suffering, for the wrongful death, that side of it.
Because a lot of the times the cops don't even get charged.
Yeah.
So having a criminal defense I
understand that part. I'm asking, like, in this situation, like, is her issue with the lawyer?
I think it's a combination of things. Because one thing I can attest to here,
They all work together.
Yeah.
All those people.
But so did this lawyer help her get that settlement?
No, because she fired him 6 to 8
Yeah,
weeks.
I about to say she fired him, so they have a bit of a different situation. The issue is, and I hear everything you're saying, Jay Black, and I somewhat agree, but this is where I understand her anger, because we talked about on the last podcast how Black Lives Matter, the organization.
Mike Brown's father is also seeking to money from the Black Lives Matter organization.
Yeah, because they
using
received
the name.
$90 million. You know,
they have
over the last past year or so, and that family hasn't seen anything. And we must be very transparent that a lot of these organizations do benefit off of the pain and mourning of these families. And so I think from Tamir Rice's mom's standpoint, I imagine it had to be really, really tough to get Tamir Rice his name said over and over, but you haven't talked to one of these activists from the community in months. You know what I'm saying? But yet you see him on TV hollering Tamir Rice this and Tamir Rice that, but nobody's reached out and asked you, hey mom, how are you doing? Like, y'all need anything? Like, and that's not saying that, like, once again, it's a lot of, that's one thing I can say about here in Atlanta, like, we don't all talk to these families, you know what I'm saying? But I know each family, for the most part, has somebody that has been there with them from the community. And that's important, because those are the people that do know, okay, it's okay to say Tamir's name. And those are the ones that know, okay, it's not okay to say it. And you need that instead of going out.
I mean, I
blindly.
think that what happened, like, Mike Brown got killed in
Ferguson
2014, but he got killed in August.
Yeah.
That same year, in November, Tamir Rice got killed. He got killed on my birthday, as a matter of fact. So I think what happens is some cases take on a life of their own, and some cases don't, just depending on, I guess, the energy, the attention, or what all goes on.
And it happens so often, too, just by sheer number.
But
like,
you can't take away from one for the other, because they're all equal. So that's why I never understood, like, these are happening so often, and they're bringing so much attention to the cause. How are you giving equal attention to each family when everybody is using you?
Yeah.
You can't, though. You can't, because we even see that, like, even with Jabari.
Monteria Robinson was here, and we were talking to her.
That happened, but that's not a big case per se. Like, we know it because it's more of a local thing. But if we go outside of Georgia, I don't.
So who decides? How do they decide which case gets more attention than the other?
It's just like what goes viral. You don't know what's gonna go viral.
That's kind of like George Floyd. Like, why was that case? You know what I'm saying? Lots of black men and women and children have died at the hands of police. Why was George Floyd?
Because it was the sheer audacity. It was just straight out.
So you telling me, but that's what I'm saying. So you telling me that's
the audacity,
and that's why it's so hard, because you telling me that you can say it was a sheer audacity in this situation when it's 100 other situations over here with just as much audacity.
And with those other ones, it was assumed, like, Mike Brown, before anything happened, it was like, oh, he stole something from the store. You know what I mean? Tamir Rice, it was a toy gun. We didn't know whether it was real or not. Like, the narrative got out there before the real story got out there, so it was kind of like slow to grow. But everybody at the same time saw this man get that knee. Like, regardless, I don't care what he did. Like, he's not even fighting back. He's very apologetic. Like, it was just, I think that it was his demeanor that brought the empathy out of everyone. It was just how he was just like, yo, I'm sorry.
But can we? What you call it though? It didn't get as big. Botham Jean. This man was in his house, like,
man,
and that didn't get as big.
It didn't to me. To me, Sandra Bland didn't get.
I'm thinking about Sandra Bland, but the only reason I didn't say Sandra Bland is because they can get at.
She was in jail.
They can get at Rita. She was giving an attitude and this and this and that. Like,
right.
You feel me? They got that little narrative to play with, even though it's some bullshit. They got that narrative to play for.
They
Botham
did that.
Jean, they have no narrative. This lady walked in this man's house.
Yep.
You feel me?
But the narrative is her fear because there's a black man in her house. That was the underlying thing.
And once again, how telling is it that was the default story that they tried to use to appease the situation? Because
they can relate to that. Everybody can relate to the big black man fear. Everyone could say, "Oh, I would totally be afraid if there was a black man in my house." Everyone could say that, and people would. And that's why Each one, that's what I mean. Each one is different.
But
I never understood, and I always said this, and everybody's like, well, who else is gonna do it? Whenever I say, like, isn't it funny to somebody that the same lawyer gets every single, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, as a mother, I would feel the same way.
But the one thing I will say, like, once again, I don't feel any kind of, I don't like him or dislike him, but one thing I can say, you don't become the man by not getting results. True. Being Crump's name is huge for a reason. So one thing, like, no matter, like, that's like Kobe Bryant. God rest his soul. I love Blackmond to death, but I hated him when he played. You want to know why I hated him? It was because he was good at what he did and he got results. So I'll just say that about being Crump. If you look at, you know what I'm saying, don't just look at one side of the spectrum, because, like, once again, there has to be something going on if Tamir Rice's mom is feeling the way she's feeling. But on the other hand, like I always tell people, things can be the same way at the same time. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to, the world isn't all black and white. There's gray areas, definitely. People don't like it, but there are. And so you have to look at situations and really just sift through them on a case-by-case basis, because, you know, no details are the same.
They don't get paid until you win.
Yeah.
So that's how they get paid. He takes pro bono and other civil rights cases that put your rights at center stage. If your rights have come under fire, Mr. Crump and his team are ready to fire back. So that's according to his website. That's what he does. And so
he's taking on these cases for free.
He's taking on these cases for free. So the way he gets it won is by winning. He gets these people, all Sean King, Ben Crump, they try everybody in the court of public opinion, because as soon as this case happens, they review it. Okay, send this out. The media, now you have 2 million followers. 2 million people now have your perspective of what happened.
Yeah. And one thing I will say, I don't know how true it is. Like, maybe listeners can, you know, I haven't been through the situation. Now, hopefully, I never need Ben Crump. But it's one of those situations where I've heard him say that we are nowhere where we haven't been called. So that makes me wonder also, like, how the interaction gets started.
Well, you know, like you said, if that's the person that gets things done, you call them, and you're desperate at that point, because everything happens so fast. You got to think about it. The cops are involved, the detective is involved, the lawyers, they're already, you know, they're already putting their stuff out there. They're already covering their tracks. So you got to act quick. And there's deadlines, there's things that need to be signed, they're pressuring you. You got to think quick. And if it's a quick thing, what, you got to call your aunt? Do you know anybody? Your cousin?
And that's what I was going to say. Like, even with what we was just talking about, like, again, I respect where Tamir Rice's mom is coming from, like, and all that. But even what we was talking about with just the Sandra Bland and all that, them other cases, they pushed their narrative out there first. You feel me? They pushed their narrative. So it's like, why not use our people to push our narrative? They pushing these narratives on Fox News and on these big-ass news platforms. So why not use our people to get platforms?
They do what they do, and they do it for a reason.
Like you say, it's the court of public opinion. They use the news though. They're using the news. We just using influencers. Yeah. And because those are the people that speak to us. That's what we watching. But the other side, the other people, they're watching the news. So they going to these platforms like, yeah, he was a thug. He was this. He was that. But we got our people telling the real story. Like, nah, he was. You know, basically, we combating their public opinion. Yeah. Basically, with the people that's at the forefront. And that's why I'm never mad at using influencers, like, even though sometimes they don't know what the hell going on, but we understand the platform. I understand their platform. Use them just like a tool, like, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. Get the job done. Exactly.
I feel you.
So people had a problem when they saw Tamika Mallory on the Grammys, and that's what kind of, I think, sparked the conversation on Twitter, like you said.
What's her, I mean, I don't know. I'm asking, what's her like background? Like, where did she come from? What is she?
Her parents are known in the civil rights movement. I think they were her dad was a pastor, I think. But they've done work in the community. She's a social justice leader, so she came to fame besides the work that she's done, you know, younger with her family. At the Women's March, she helped to start that. She did a great speech that went on to be one of her greatest speeches, and so she is known for that specifically.
So that's just like, let's just say you out at a march and you just so moved to lead a march and say a speech, and now you done been put in this place of this person. Like, I feel like that's what it sounds like, what happened with her. And it's like now she's taking the blame for something that I didn't sign. I'm just passionate about this, and they just put me in this position to be the face of this, the one that talk about it. And now I'm taking all the blame for that. But when deep down inside, like, I really want, justice or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what a lot of, like, I don't know. I feel like when people, again, it's like even in the black community, when you become successful, you a sellout. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Yeah.
So now that she on TV and she's able to speak to the mainstream, in a sense, she's looked at as a sellout.
Yeah.
So she was a part of the Justice League too, and I think the Justice League is just another group of people like Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. A lot of them popped up all over the country during the course of these times. There's a few different movements. Mm-hmm. You have to be careful though when you're the face of a movement, because you start to take the blame, and I think she kind of probably understands that, and I'm sure that she's probably.
I hope at this point, and like once again, you can't make anybody talk to you, but the only thing I hope is, because like I always tell people, one thing I learned very quickly in the activist community here in Atlanta, you're not gonna get along with everybody, you're not gonna, be buddy with everybody, but the common goal should be of mutual respect, because there are different movements. Like everybody isn't a peaceful protester. Like some people like want to go get some guns and like mount up and defend. But like some people, they not about that. So you have to find your sector of like-minded people, and of course it's okay for y'all to group up, but just respect other people's journey, respect their movement. And I always tell people, sometimes the biggest respect you can give people is stand out of their way. Like it's I may not necessarily agree with what you're doing, but it's not my job to step in and trip you up either. And I feel like in the activist community, we gotta be more open to letting people have their space, as long as this is not a huge detriment to the community, because we never gonna be all on the same page, but we definitely gotta be in the same book. Like it can't be, once again going back to what Jay Black said about the Avengers and Thanos, all those were singular superheroes, but they had to come together when that bigger threat came, and mm-hmm. if they wanted a chance of survival. And that was a good analogy, because that's really where we are at. And I hope more activists start to realize that with all the infighting that goes on, and
there was a thing in St. Louis. Is that where Breonna is? Where was Breonna Taylor?
Kentucky.
In Kentucky,
yeah.
Called BreonnaCon.
Mm-hmm. And we remember that because it was controversial.
So and that's the thing. The people that are on Tamir Rice's side are saying, nah, they be doing wild shit. Like, what was this BreonnaCon thing about? And you didn't get any of the local activists. You got reality stars there. Mm-hmm. Like, there are people on both sides saying, no, yes, no, yes. You gotta.
I feel like they, again, what's her name, Samaria? Mm-hmm. I feel like she said how she felt. I feel like the people that she's talking to should go and make it right with her. Talk to her and go make it right with her. But at the same time, I feel like once they do, and if they do make it right, I feel like she should come out and say that too. Like,
they tried. We talked about it.
Yeah.
Blah blah
we
blah.
Got on the same page.
That's just as important. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just as, because you're able to call them out. Like, all the negative press is pushed, mm-hmm. but they don't never, when everything is reconciled and all that, never comes out. And I just feel like I think for our community, I think that's important.
So here's the thing, and I agree with this. This is a tweet I saw from Lonnie on Twitter. This all makes me so mad because people with resources, monetary and otherwise, never do their research and throw money at the most visible, branded people in the movement. Mm-hmm. Sean King, Tamika Mallory, etc. Been on this shit since the beginning. They always survive call-outs.
Yeah.
So, we saw during the movement last summer, after what happened to George Floyd, corporations and entities that were pushing money out, like to clear their conscience, like, right, I'm going to contribute and that's going to make all things right. So they contribute to the most visible, whether they don't do their homework, they don't do their research, they just quickly want to say they did something, right?
Yeah.
So that's how a lot of these people make all the money, because they're the most visible. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the argument. The argument is, okay, what are y'all doing? Like, I know people think that you're the face of this thing. So what do you do with the money? Do you even report to the family all the money you're getting? Like, don't you think some of it should get siphoned back to the family?
Yeah.
And I think that's a bigger problem.
And how much do you charge? How do you even establish that? Like, hey, I'm
gonna say, because think about it. How many, like, honestly, just here in Atlanta, how many cases are y'all fighting?
Right.
It's one every day.
Yeah.
Every day it's a new case. So it's like,
how do you?
That's why I say it's just it's gonna get to a point to where you just don't say no names, and people gonna feel disrespected, but it's just gonna have to be a broad thing.
And then, like you said too, like there's the civil part and there's the criminal part.
Yeah.
So if they don't get a conviction, they still feel like the civil is a win.
Yeah.
But when is that? That's not really. Is it really a win though? When the family gets money and the cop is still.
This is why I always tell people, like, and this is why once again it's so important to if the families are open to you getting to know them, on that level, like get to know them, because you won't be leading them down the wrong road with your influence or with, because I always tell activists, my job isn't to solve your problems. It's kind of like if I'm an activist and I'm out in the community and this family needs me to be a spokesperson for them, I talk to that family. If they're not comfortable with me saying something, I don't say that. You know what I'm saying? It's literally that simple. And you can avoid a lot of problems by being open with your communication, being open with your intentions, and then, like, once again, holding yourself accountable to know that, like, if I become an activist that's on Sean King's level, because transparently speaking, like, Sean King is the one activist that has been in quite a few issues with money. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's had a few instances where families have been like,
what you doing with the money?
What you doing with the money? And it never necessarily gets answered. And so, once again, if you're going to slide into this position and use your platform to help people,
just be transparent about it.
Be transparent. I feel like that's becoming a thing on this show. We say it at least once.
Because you could always say, "Oh, I got caught up with the next one," so that's why I haven't been asked.
And too, it just, again, like, once you even just listening to this, like, the whole fight, it doesn't even have nothing to do with justice. It's about money. It ain't even about getting justice. Like, you feel me? It's about, y'all ain't giving me no money.
So a win would be the settlement. A win is a settlement.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like, this is why I always tell people, law is business in the whole scheme of things. Like, you know what I'm saying? So once again, you not getting justice on this side doesn't mean you should walk away empty-handed on this side. And once again, some people want money, some people want justice, some people want them both. So, you know what I'm saying? Because I always hear people say, this family took the money. They must not care about getting justice for the cop, or like they sold out because they took what was legally theirs. You know what I'm saying? So, once again, going back to communication and being with these people, because I always tell people, even if you win a case and, say for instance, if a cop does go to jail, that family still didn't have their son. They still didn't have their daughter. And they may have millions of dollars now.
But justice was served.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's that pain, that mourning, you know what I'm saying? That's one thing I always teach people about money. Like, money can't solve everything. Like, it's people that have all the money in the world, they still die. They still go through some of the same pains and hurts, or they share the same sunlight as you. So some stuff is just, it's human. It ain't got nothing to do with money. Your feelings, your emotions, you know what I'm saying, how you feel that particular day. Like, we all got to take that human factor into account when we're dealing with people. And sometimes in the activist game, and a lot of other games, it becomes transactional instead of, are you here to really care and really look out for me? And that's why so many of these families don't know who to trust.
And I agree with you on, it's about building relationships. But again, it's probably like, let's say about 10 people that's at the forefront, that's the forefront.
Yeah.
And we just said it's hundreds of cases in Atlanta. Somebody's gonna feel left out. It's Definitely. Always gonna be a problem at the end of the day, because it's gonna be, say if I'm with Tamir Rice's family, George Floyd's family, but I'm missing Jabari and Robinson's family. I'm not dealing with them. I'm just paying attention to these families. Because if I'm building a relationship, it's like, man, okay, I can only take on so many families.
And that's something you got to realize as an activist too. Like, it's not your job to save everybody or to think you some superhero.
So why accept every case that comes your way? Every single case?
And like, once again, I always tell people, that's the thing about life. You can't always see stuff. It's easy to look back and see patterns over time. But when you're in situations like Jay Black was saying, like when we got to make decisions quick, when stuff is ongoing, like it's not always as easy to see the long game picture. It's easy now. I'm sure even with Tamir Rice's mom, like how long has Tamir been dead?
Since 2014.
Since 2014. So that's basically years of her holding in. You know what I'm saying? Probably maybe
the cop got off, but she did get a settlement.
Yeah.
But
so I guess and I don't even want to say that, but like, I guess what I think we should just figure out exactly. She just really wants people to stop talking about her son. Mm-hmm. If that's what she wants, I feel like
she
we should
wants
just respect
people
that.
to stop. She wants them because she fired them a long time ago. But what she's saying is like, stop trying to capitalize off all these families' names. Like, you have events for all the families, all the mothers, and you're at the march and you're like, say his name, Tamir Rice, da 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 da. And she's like, stop doing that. Stop monetizing off of the suffering.
Because I think it's always going to it kind of goes back to we talked about life insurance and funerals. Like, one thing you can count on, like, and it's tragic, but like, death gonna happen. Like, all of us in this room gonna die. Like, I hope it's nothing that, what I'm saying, it's tragic. I hope we all get to be old and die peacefully, but there's a chance that may not happen. You know what I'm saying? Every day I step out my door, I know it's a chance I may not be going back home.
So Tamika Mallory responded.
Oh, she did?
Yeah. On her podcast, she said, from my perspective, I want to make sure that as a mother, I speak directly to Miss Rice. She says her and some other individuals, but that two have never communicated with her. I want to just make sure that we start off grounded in the fact that nothing we say today is an attack on Miss Rice. Quite frankly, Miss Rice is right, Mallory continued. I support 100% how she feels and what she has stated in terms of her pain, in terms of her son. I feel like we all have failed her. The fact she did not get the proper justice for her son would make anyone angry. So I totally respect the pain and the trauma that she feels as a mother. Rice also accused activists of evoking her son's name and reaping the benefits. Mallory addressed that accusation specifically, saying, I think it's important to clarify whether we have used Ms. Rice's child, her baby, in campaigns or in speeches, fundraising. We have not. Other than potentially calling the role of all people who have been killed by the state. I have been very careful not to speak about cases or individuals that I have not worked directly with the families, particularly in this situation where, as Ms. Rice stated, we never even met. She reiterated, I would never be so disrespectful to speak about her child or have a campaign that uses her child or his name to uplift any cause. I think that's really, really important to state. Ms. Rice has said that she wants me to not speak on her child while I have not been doing it in the past. I'm very, very, very careful going forward to ensure I respect her wishes. Even if we feel that we are all in the names in order to make a bigger point, we will be very, very careful not to disrespect her wishes. In Rice's Facebook post about Tamika Mallory and the Grammys Award, she used the word bitch, which she apologized for on March 17th. I could have said it different, Tamika. I didn't have to call you out your name, but baby girl, you out of pocket. You out your lane. I did what I did. I said what I said. Could I have said it different? Yes, I could have. But at the time, it got me angry. And here we go once again. Maybe you should have the mothers on the stage with you when you're out there.
I agree with that. And remember, I said the same thing with Kaepernick when he did the tryout thing. If this was your fight, you should have had these families out there. You in Georgia, you should have had those families out there. So I agree with that.
She got really. I mean, I think what really got everybody pissed off was when she was on the Grammys.
Forth,
like, why are you on the Grammys?
I think that was great dialogue. I think that was great dialogue. I think Tamika Mallory, she responded well. Yeah. Again, this lady is. And again, I'm gonna use emotional, but not in a bad way. Yeah. She's emotional for a reason. Yeah. And she has every reason to feel how she want to feel and all that. But when she later years down the line, when Tamir Rice is not talked about anymore, she can't feel bad about that neither. Like, oh, my son is forgotten about. Yeah. I just feel like, I respect what she, you just got to respect what she wants.
She said that she's available to talk to her via phone. I'm here for any type of conversation with any family that would like to reach out and talk about the death of their child or some tragic situation that has happened to them.
And that was what I was about to get to. I hope they can get to a more intimate space to talk instead of talking back and forth in public. That's what I was getting at. I definitely am glad that they talked.
They asked her if she would ever.
I hope that phone call definitely happened.
She said they asked her. There was another show that Mrs. Rice was on, and they asked her on the show if you would ever consider working with Tamika Mallory if she reached out to you. It's no working together because she has created a platform What are we going to work at? What are we going to do? She already created a platform, and guess what? My platform was given to me from the death of my son. What type of work are we going to do? Because I'm not interested in no movie deals and book deals.
See, and that's my thing. Like, I think we gotta, and we might have said it, and I might have just didn't hear it. Mm-hmm. We gotta figure out what do they
Ms.
want? Rice want?
Yeah, right.
What does she want? Like, what does
she said? They ask her every day if they wanted a movie deal or a book deal. I have to turn those away every day. So tell me, what are we gonna do? Mm-hmm. Rice is referring to Mallory's book, State of Emergency: How We Win the Country We Built, which will be released in May. In December, the Department of Justice officially closed the case involving Tamir Rice without bringing charges against the police officers. So. Everybody is saying, hurt people, and she's hurt, but no, don't blame it on that. She has a legitimate argument. Yeah. Like,
you gotta respect people's feelings.
Like, you are out here with reality show people, not even activists. I don't think I understand that, but I don't feel like them being reality stars are significant. I feel like if because you could be a reality star and
I'm not an activist. But I still have an opinion on this situation. I'm a black man. I'm a black person.
But you're going to use your platform
and I'm using my
bring
platform.
Attention.
This reality store has a platform.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we're all fighting for justice,
it doesn't matter who it comes from.
And that's why I always even said with the chick, the Rachel Dozer chick, like I don't understand why people was mad at her.
Yeah.
Even though she lied about it.
She's a culture vulture.
But she's fighting for our cause.
But I got. Well, I won't get caught up in that. That's a whole nother conversation. But what I will say is, like, once again, we have to respect. I always tell people emotion isn't right or wrong. Like, how you feel about something, like, sometimes you can't even control it.
A feeling is not,
And so, like, with Tamir Rice's mom, you once again, just respect the feelings no matter how you feel. Because, like, you're allowed to have an opinion on whatever. Like, that's all right. But at the same time, Jay Black, you are an activist. Like, you may not be out there marching, but I always tell people everybody's an activist. Only thing activist is, like, Jay Black produces this show, like, you know what I'm saying, he creating content for the movement in a sense, and, like, you may not see his face on everything, but he's behind the scenes working hard to make sure that our message gets out. Like, we talking about the community every week. We talk now. They may see our faces, but
right.
Jay Black is
You're a part of it.
Yeah.
Because you could be like, I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about the new song that came out last week. So you are an activist.
Well, I guess it was more so that just because I'm this. Say if I was a drug dealer, but I'm still doing this. You feel me? Just because I'm a drug dealer don't mean I can't have an opinion on
it. That's true.
And, hey, Nino Brown gave out turkeys in the hood.
You know what I'm saying?
It's two sides to everything.